Hello everyone. Today's special edition webinar is for make to order versus make to stock manufacturing, and we're featuring Tim Grant. Tim Grant's a software consultant who works with us, and he's a QuickBooks solution provider. Today he's just going to go over make to order manufacturing versus make to stock and the implications on the accounting side, as well as some special deals from QuickBooks that he can provide. And take it away, Tim.
Okay, great, Michael. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you just fine.
Okay, great. Yeah, hi, folks. Yeah, my name is Tim Grant. I'm the senior consultant with Business Solution Providers, Inc. We're actually out of Reno, Nevada. And today I was going to ask to talk about stocking and fulfillment strategies, some of the business environments around inventory, and the strategies that are used in conjunction with those different types of businesses, as Michael mentioned, make to order, make to stock, and I'll be talking about some others. So welcome. Thank you for taking the time out to join this webinar and get some information about these different business types. So I'll get into it. This discussion is going to be about strategies and ways to think about the stocking environment and fulfilling orders based on your business environment. It doesn't matter if you're using a third-party inventory or manufacturing software program, or if you're just using the inventory module in QuickBooks. These strategies are universal and work in most product-based businesses, no matter what your industry or software program that you're using. First, why do we need a strategy? And I apologize. Hang on. Sorry, did my page advance? Michael?
No, it didn't go forward on the slides.
Okay. Sorry. There we go.
There we go.
Is it? Okay. All right. So first, why do we need a strategy? All businesses have three major stakeholders in the competent running of the business: management, the workers, and the customers, who expect faster and better service all the time. This creates a strain on the business then, of course, to meet expectations, to meet the needs and wants of the three groups, to make the enterprise successful. Management wants the resources and planning capabilities to effectively drive the business. Workers want a safe, predictable environment where workflows are laid out and clear expectations of their performance are made. And then the customers just want the products when they're promised, with the best quality and follow-up assurances. Having a strategy ahead of time that meets the needs and expectations of those three stakeholders gives an inventory or manufacturing business a smooth process from which to work, where all of the expectations of those involved are met. We've all run into the issues of being overstocked and understocked in a business and the problems that go with it. With an overstock, our inventory is like unusable cash. It's just sitting there. It's eroding our product life cycles. Warehouse space is being used up. There's holding costs associated with it, and it just causes general problems. In an understock situation, we're not meeting customer demand, and we're basically losing business out to the competition. We have extra costs for fulfilling orders. Manufacturing orders sometimes have to wait. We have idle workers standing around, causing more finance issues. So what we're striving for is the right inventory levels, where we can meet the demand and keep our costs down, keeping all of these costs in check and being as productive as possible. So before I get into the different business models, I'm going to be going over some important terms that are used in the inventory and manufacturing world that you may not be aware of. The definitions are taken from the official dictionary of the Association of Supply Chain Management, an international supply chain organization dedicated to the development of supply chains worldwide and education around the world. Demand management is really the heart of what every distribution and manufacturing company is attempting to do: anticipate demand and meet that demand. The formal definition is the process of planning, executing, controlling, and monitoring the design, pricing, promotion, and distribution of products and services to bring about the transactions that meet the organizational and individual needs. Or to put it more distinctly, stocking and fulfilling parts and products in a way that meet the needs of your stakeholders in the most efficient and time-saving way. How you do that depends upon your fulfillment process environment. Next, let's talk about the various forms of inventory and manufacturing working environments. You may not have thought about your business in this way, but each form drives demand management. The first is make to order, or MTO. Demand management in the MTO environment involves determining how much engineering capacity will be necessary in order to meet the needs of the future customers. Options or accessories might be stocked before a customer order arrives. The key differential in an MTO environment is to coordinate information of the customer's needs with engineering. Engineering then determines the required materials, manufacturing steps, and costs. The manufacturing process type used might be a work center or batch processing, and a make-to-order product might be something like a specialized piece of furniture. Assemble-to-order, or ATO, environments, products are high enough in volume and with adequate variety to justify making components and subassemblies in advance. The key demand management task is to identify the alternative components and options of the customer's orders. Customers need to be informed about the allowable combinations and the delivery date of their finished product. The key inventory tracking unit is that of the components rather than the finished product in an ATO environment. An example would be like a computer where a customer can specify the different options selected. Conversely, in a make-to-stock or MTS environment, demand management for make-to-stock environments involves maintenance of the finished good inventory. Customers can buy products directly from available inventory, so customer service is determined by whether the item is in stock or not available. The manufacturing process types used are usually product lines or some other forms of continuous flows made in batches. Replenishing stock at specific locations is also an important consideration. Some companies will use distribution centers or maybe local or plant warehouses or what's called vendor managed inventory inside of customer locations. There is a fourth type of manufacturing environment called the engineer to order, or ETO process, but it usually pertains only to specialized projects like building a bridge. So I'll leave that out of the discussion as it only pertains to a small segment of the industry. Here's a chart outlining the key process activities involved with the three manufacturing and inventory fulfillment environments. As you can see, the process of information gathering, resource planning, and inventory control all vary depending upon the fulfillment and manufacturing styles that are used. A make-to-stock business is going to rely on reorder points and product history to determine purchase of raw materials, while a make-to-order business will primarily wait until a customer order is received before purchasing the bulk of needed supplies. An ATO organization or hybrid business might do a little of both. Different processes call for different strategies to purchasing, stocking, and order fulfillment. Let's break down these three activity areas down by business type. Information gathering in an MTO environment is driven by the customer. What to make, what options, quality and accessibility of materials. All of these decisions come from the speed and quality of the information provided by the potential customer. Locking down this information in a contract or work document is paramount, because that information is then used to make purchasing and manufacturing decisions. In an ATO assembly model, emphasis is on the historical data, if that's available. This kind of company must first break out what the core parts of their products are, which they want to always keep in stock. Then, based on past sales, average out what options customers typically order and plan for ordering, or making those parts in time to arrive or finish the manufacturing process in time for assembly and delivery. Here, the company must start deciding which parts to keep in stock and how they will forecast demand for those parts and which ones are up to the whim of the market. Fortunately for make-to-stock businesses, we live in a data-driven world. Through effective marketing and comparison with prior periods or even their competition, they can gather information on demand for their products and stock accordingly. But as we'll see in the planning discussion, even historical data is no guarantee to predicting the future. Once the information is gathered, using that information to plan out your resources is the toughest job in inventory management because you have to speculate on customer demand and how it will in turn drive decisions on labor and materials. Many mid-sized companies have entire teams or departments whose only job is to plan the next quarter's requirement for the parts and the use of equipment and labor. Imagine what their jobs were like at the start of the pandemic. A customer or client specification will drive what's required in the planning phase of a make-to-stock type of business. Materials can usually be estimated or known up front. The equipment can be allocated as needed, labor scheduled to meet the requirements. Some things to consider are, I think I referred to this as the make-to-stock and make-to-order. Things to consider will the company use forward scheduling to plan their scheduling or backward scheduling to meet the client's expected date? The former uses available date for all resources, while the latter is date-driven and allocates latest possible times for ordering, scheduling, and completion in each stage of the project. Does the company have adequate suppliers? Are the supplier lead times sufficient to meet each stage of the production? Is the right technical labor available to execute the needed assembly, or does it need to acquire specialists elsewhere to meet the contract? Planning for an ATO environment is partially based on the known demand for the core products, but creates a challenge for estimating the average number of options that will be selected and added to the finished goods. Here, historical data combined with marketing projections helps the planner to make, buy, or hold off. With the classic make-to-stock business, management tends to rely on forecasting based on historical data from prior sales. However, there's a lot that goes into setting reorder points, making it an art almost as much as a science. There are a lot of things to consider when planning a product's reorder point, like seasonality, the product's life cycle, or even just changes in trends in the marketplace. Once a reorder point is set, the software program flags the purchasing agent or production manager that a part is low on quantity and to take appropriate corrective action. We'll go into a few methods for calculating reorder points in a moment, but first let's talk about control or managing all of these processes and goods. Once a contract is signed or an agreement reached, the requirements are known in a make-to-order or MTO business. Managers can start scheduling the resources needed and production timetable. This is where lead times for purchasing and manufacturing are important and make or break meeting the customer deadline. Usually the costs are well known as they are established at the time of the quote. The project is only constrained by the capacity of engineering and the availability of resources, both in material and labor. The challenge in an assemble-to-order business is responding with the correct inventory quantities to meet the expected delivery dates. Although a lot of planning goes into predicting the need for parts and finished goods at the time of order, fluctuations in buyer demand or sourcing of materials can quickly change, in turn affecting those meeting the delivery dates for their customers. And then lastly, it seems like make-to-stock companies should have the easiest time, of predicting demand and to forecasting it out. But supply disruptions happen, and companies cannot always change out those resources quickly. Machines have to be added, warehousing purchased, and workers found. Because consumers view these commodity type of businesses, they have a higher expectation of goods being always available. Think about just recently the toilet paper shortage in March of 2020. Going back to the definitions from the Association of Supply Chain Management, companies must consider also the level of what's called the customer service ratio they wish to maintain. This is a measure of delivery performance of finished goods or other cargo expressed as a percentage. For example, a clothing retailer might choose to promise 100% on-time delivery and is willing to incur special costs to meet that requirement. Or they determine a 90% on-time rate is tolerable to market what they sell and let the customer wait until it's available. The point is that MTS companies must align their processes to match the expectations of their clientele, or at least maintain the expected service ratio they've set for their customers, since those customers are going to have pre-existing expectations. One other definition to throw in here is the order fulfillment lead time. This is the average amount of time between the customer's order and the customer's receipt at delivery. This includes every manufacturing or processing step in between. Now that we've covered 3 inventory and manufacturing models and how information planning and control are used, let's go over how to calculate the numbers for reorder points and forecasts. The reorder point, also known as the ROP, is the inventory level at which an order is triggered to replenish the inventory stock. Inventories are consumed over time so that upon reaching the ROP, the item is reordered. Each item or SKU has its own reorder point. Essentially, the reorder point lets you place an order at the right time before the stock reaches the replenishment limit. The components that go into calculating that reorder point are the rate of the consumption of the item, the lead time the item takes to arrive at the warehouse, called the purchasing lead time, and the level of the safety stock. This is stock that's planned to be in inventory just in case to cover fluctuations in demand and supply. One footnote about the purchasing lead time too is that this includes the purchase order preparation and release time, the supplier lead time, the transportation time, and the time needed for receipt, inspection, and put away of the goods to the warehouse. So keep that in mind. I see a lot of clients suffer in that area because they don't consider the entire time required. The reorder point formula is shown here. It's basically the average consumption during lead time plus the safety stock, expressed in a formula where LT is the average lead time, AD is the average demand per period, and SS is the safety stock. To understand the formula, realize there are variables at play here. In the example above, if we have a demand of 100 units per day, a lead time from the supplier of 3 days, and our safety stock is 500, then our reorder point is 800 units. If we were working without a safety stock or performing just-in-time manufacturing, the reorder point and the reorder quantity would be the same, but then you run the risk of running out of goods. The reorder point model tries to minimize costs associated with what's known as holding costs for the inventory. These include warehouse space, insurance, labor, etc. This example assumes we reorder with minimal time between reorders. However, your holding costs may need to be considered against other costs, like the costs of the purchasing department placing frequent purchase orders, or multiple shipments being received at the loading dock, plus put away time. If your holding costs are minimal, or your supplier has a minimum order quantity, the amount you order might be different from the actual reorder point. This is a graph of the reorder point. So you can see we have our lead times, our lot sizes, and the downward slope is the consumption until the items are replenished. The benefits of using this formula are to ensure higher safety levels, either with external or internal stakeholders, as I mentioned, avoiding delays or bottlenecks in the supply chain, avoid getting the items too early or too late, reducing inventory costs, optimizing your inventory space, and just simply replacing guessing with facts and data. The ROP does work on some assumptions like constant demand and constant lead time, so it needs to be flexible and you probably need to revisit them every 3 to 6 months. Again, it can be as much art as it is science, honestly. First, you need good historical data to base your estimate on. For many small or newer companies, this information may not be available. Seasonality can force a change in the monthly numbers, or your sales manager or department may throw in a special sale on items to promote. All of these circumstances can alter what might have been a good estimate. In whatever way you calculate it, a reorder point is just a trigger to set off an action, like a purchase order. The reorder point is different, however, from a forecast, which is a projection of demand over a period of time, and you use both to level off your inventory stock. If you have previous sales data and your demand is non-seasonal or basically steady, then there are a couple of simple calculations you can come up with in a forecast. One is a simple moving average. You take the sales for each month over a period of time, say 3 months, then average the numbers to come up with a standard quantity you should keep in stock for the next month's sales. For example, if we sold 102 in July, 119 in August, and 121 in September, then we divide the total of sales by 3 months, and we know that we want to have at least 114 to meet the October demand. A variant of the moving average method is the weighted moving average method. This method is quicker to track trends because it assigns weights to the monthly sales based on how recent they were. For example, we might give those July sales a weight of 1, the August sales a weight of 2, and the September sales a weight of 3. This gives greater weight to the more recent sales. When calculating the weighted moving average, you divide the sum of the weights rather than the number of periods, in this case 6. Using that method, we get a reorder level of 117.17. Another method that I won't go into here, but is worth investigating, is the exponential smoothing forecast. This simply takes the prior period forecast and actual demand and then gives them offsetting weights to come up with the next forecast. The technique makes use of a smoothing constant to apply to the difference between the most recent forecast and the actual prior period sales data to avoid the necessity of carrying a lot of historical sales data. The exponential smoothing method is often used because of its flexibility and low cost, and because if it's used right, it can spot trends and adjust projections accordingly. But how do we calculate seasonal data? If ups and downs remain consistent from year to year, then you could use the moving average or weighted moving average by selecting the same month from year to year. For example, use data from January of 2018, 2019, and 2020 to come up with the average expected for January of 2021. There are more sophisticated models for forecasting seasonal data, but I won't cover them here due to time. One other type of forecasting strategy is what I might say is a meeting of the minds used by many mid-sized businesses called the S&OP process, or Sales and Operations Planning process. This involves regular meetings between the salespeople or departments and people from the warehouse or manufacturing department, as well as someone from finance. Usually, sales start with a projection of demand for an upcoming period. The fulfillment people take the numbers to estimate the resources, like workers and equipment, needed to reach that demand. The finance gurus run the numbers to see if it's all within budget and what the outcomes will be under the best and worst scenarios. Sometime later, once the departments have come to an agreement, management is called in to review and approve the plan. S&OP meetings are extraordinarily available because they bring reasonable expectations to the table and then hold everyone accountable to the group's plans. So that kind of wraps it up for me today in finishing all of the different business models and the reorder points and forecasting that you can expect under each. I've also included some resources here. One of the best books that I've ever read on inventory is called Inventory Accuracy, People, Process, and Technology by David Piasecki. Very easy to read, but it contains a lot of really useful information. A lot of what I drew on today was from the Association of Supply Chain Management at ascm.org, which you can find a lot of information, case studies regarding inventory and manufacturing situations and how they were resolved. And then there's also a reference to the National Association of Manufacturers for other information directly pertaining to manufacturing. So, Michael, that's about it for me. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to add in some parts about how order time takes care of reorder points. Using reorder analysis within order time, you can actually use those formulas that he mentioned, and if you know your own reorder point, you can enter it in, and reorder analysis can be used not only for forecasting and creating purchase orders, but it can also be used to create work orders. So if you're forecasting something that's being made to order, or multiple like different types of items that are being made to order, you can forecast it using the reorder analysis tool. And in the email to follow up this webinar, I'll not only include the slides from the presentation and info about Tim's business and services, but also include links to the how to use reorder analysis and set your own reorder points within order time. And all the calculations that he had here, when I give you the slides, you'll have the slides, but I'll put the calculations in the email too, so that you have just like a quick copy and paste. And is there any questions for Tim? Up in the top right, if you click on chat with everyone, you can open that pane and type in some questions. Or if you unmute yourself, you can ask them via voice.
Okay.
And in that email follow-up, I'll include Tim's information so you can reach out to him if you have any need for manufacturing consulting.
And I'll also mention about the partnership that we have with Order Time. We are what's known as QuickBooks solution providers. We are basically outside sales and technical training people for all of Intuit's products, Pro, Premier, Enterprise, and QuickBooks Online. And we work with Order Time in that any new customers of both products receive 20% off, and in some cases even deeper discounts. We also provide a minimum of 5 hours inventory training on QuickBooks and getting set up and configured to Order Time as well as part of the bundle deal that we offer.
And if you're looking to add any users to your QuickBooks or upgrades or switch versions, Tim can help with that as well. Looks like that's it.
Okay, no questions?
Nope. Thank you for attending, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you, Michael.
Bye.
Take care.